Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Donna Seymour. I'm a member of the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters, one of the civic partners for this show. Today we're going to be talking about the need to get more people to go into the skilled trades. And my guest is the perfect person to talk to us about that. Steve Todd is the superintendent of the Jefferson-Lewis BOCES, and he has been a frequent contributor here on North Country Matters. Steve, it's so nice to have you back in the studio.
Thank you for having me back, Donna. It's always my favorite thing to do. I jump at a chance to come back and talk.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. So we're about 2 decades into the 21st century, Steve, but the U.S. is still using pretty much of a 19th century approach to education when it comes to training and workforce development, aren't we? Workforce preparation is not a linear pipeline from kindergarten through college, although that's the way we kind of treat it, isn't it? It's very similar now to what it was a few decades ago. High schools and colleges have struggled for decades to attract students to job-oriented careers and classes ranging from welding to nursing. Federal figures show that only 8% of undergraduates are enrolled in certificate programs, which tend to be oriented towards the vocations. So we're doing a major project at our camp this spring. We went to a local hardware store to pick up some materials, and the store handed us our purchases in this bag. Now you can't read what's on that bag, but I'll tell you what it says. By 2028, there will be more than 3 million jobs in the skilled trades that will need to be filled, rewarding careers in growing industries. In fact, industries that can't be outsourced. They can only be filled with people here at home. Generation T is a national movement to help millions of Americans transform their lives by becoming skilled trade professionals. You can find out more at wearegenerationt.com. Excuse me, wearegenerationt.com. That's after they graduate.
Right.
So this represents a change in thinking and approach about how to steer young people and people who are already working into the skilled trades area from what educators have been doing for decades now, which is guiding the bulk of our youth into the college track. Steve, tell us what this means for you as a BOCES superintendent here in the North Country.
It does my heart good to know that we as a country and we as a state are finally starting to come to the realization that there are many ways to be successful. That college is important and it's good for many, but not the only way to be successful. And that the skilled trades are an equally important and equally successful route. So I'm happy to report that we here in the North Country, I think, have been ahead of the curve on that. The 8% stat that you quoted there, nationwide, we have far outpaced that for decades. As of our most recent statistics, we know that in my BOCES region, which covers all of Jefferson County, most of Lewis County, some of Herkimer, some of Hamilton, and some of Oneida counties, of the about 23,000 students there, K through 12, by the time they get to their 11th and 12th grade years, 38% of them attend one of our technical centers and earn a certificate and graduate in the skilled trades. Here in St. Lawrence County, it's even more so. St. Lawrence Lewis BOCES is 48% of students. So we get it around here. And I just think it's encouraging, finally, to see that the rest of the country and the rest of the state is beginning to catch up and understand that. One encouraging development is nationwide, there's been, for the last several decades, piece of legislation that passes and is reauthorized through Congress periodically called the Carl D. Perkins legislation, named after long-time serving Senator Perkins, who was a big fan of the skilled trades and CTE, career and technical education. And it provides a shot in the arm, extra money to support innovation and program development in CTE around the country. So the new iteration of Perkins, which was just reauthorized by Congress last year, places a new emphasis on providing opportunities for all students in CTE. The recognition that some students, perhaps because of physical or mental or emotional disabilities, have struggled to be able to complete those programs. So a new emphasis of Perkins now is investing in supports to allow students who might not otherwise have been successful to be successful. So it really is not just an emphasis on the trades, but an emphasis on the trades for all, potentially, so that everybody has an opportunity to be successful.
That's great. You know, I had your cohort here in St. Lawrence County, Tom Burns, in the spring. He's a great guy, and we talked about the need to do a major renovation at the 3 tech centers here in St. Lawrence Lewis BOCES, and that vote passed. You went through the same process last year in your BOCES, so you also were you got the authorization from your voters to go ahead and do some upgrades to your BOCES centers. So that is really an indication that the public also supports what our students are already doing, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and we're grateful to them. This is the first capital project for our BOCES region in 50 years. Our tech centers were built in 1969. I suspect most of the tech centers around the state were built in that same era. And if you walked around those buildings, just like in Tom Burns' buildings, you wouldn't believe that they hadn't had capital projects because they sparkle and they shine. Because the people who work there are so proud and take such good care of them. But electrical systems, HVAC systems, security systems need to be upgraded over time. And that's what our $20 million project does. And I believe Tom Burns' project in St. Lawrence Lewis BOCES does much of the same, upgrading the systems to make sure the buildings are ready for the next 100 years. And we're grateful to the taxpayers of our region for affording us the opportunity to do that so that the kids can have the best possible facilities.
Right. So this past May 8th, something that had never happened before happened, and that was the first national celebration designed to acknowledge young people's going into the skilled trades. It was called the National Signing Day for Career Programs, and it recognized those students who were starting new jobs, training programs, or apprenticeships. How important, Steve, is recognition like this at a national level to really make students understand that these are career choices that are of the future?
I think it's hugely important. We had a signing day for the first time this spring. 36 of our students. We want to do it even bigger next year, and even bigger the year after that. It's exciting because every student who wanted to participate had an opportunity, but being a first time, some folks dipped their toe in a little bit reluctantly, but I think once they saw how fun it was and how exciting it was for them, we're going to have many times that number in the coming year. For example, I mean, in each of our various trades, there were, envision a signing for a student who's going to Division I basketball or Division I lacrosse. They've got the college reps there, the parents there, they've got the t-shirts and the hats and the cameras, and it was exactly that. So when 5 young men who were going into the electrical union had their event, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW, was there with all the hats and all the shirts and cameras. Parents were there. There was one family that really struck me, a young man who's going to be a 5th generation electrician now. His dad was there, his grandfather was there, little baby brother was there. This was a family thing. The pride was just palpable, and it was just a moment of joy. Why shouldn't every student have the opportunity to celebrate like that? I think it's just wonderful. So it's long overdue, and we can't wait to have our next one.
Wow, that's very exciting. You know, I have to tell you, my dad was an IBEW worker. He learned his trade in the Navy, and then he worked his entire career at Niagara Mohawk, which eventually became National Grid. So he was a very proud union member, and he was very proud of the educational opportunities that he got because of his union membership.
Yes, and well, this particular young man I mentioned happens to be a good friend of my nephew, who graduated from the same high school, and they played hockey together and have been best friends since they were about this high. And my nephew's going on to college as he wanted to, and as many students do, and it's very good for him. But his friend, who is going right into the IBEW now, is going to be making more money. He's already got he's got his own insurance. He's in a retirement plan, and he's going to be making more money right out of high school, perhaps, than the average student coming out of 2 years or 4 years of college. So not that it's the only way to be successful, just like going to college isn't the only way to be successful, but my goodness, what a success.
Yes, yes, and we have seen, especially in the last few years, that many students come out of college, they don't really have a career track that they can slot themselves into, and they are carrying a lot of college debt, which can follow them for many, many years. So often that is a burden that is very difficult to retire, that debt burden. So the trades have kind of had a problem, is that they haven't always been as valued in the same way that a 4-year education's been valued, but that's really old school thinking. The state of California right now is spending $6 million on a campaign to revive the reputation of vocational education, and they're putting $200 million in to improve the delivery of those services. So let's talk a little bit about what the advantages of a skilled trade career offers to someone who goes into that career path, Steve.
Well, I'll tell you, it's all about individuals finding their passion. So if a student finds their passion in working with their hands or in a particular field of technology, there's no greater field than one of the traditional trades, like being an electrician or being an auto technician or being a carpenter. But in the CTE field now, there are such high technology options that really it's not an either or. 50% of the students who attend one of our technical centers each day, and that's 1,100 kids every day in one of our centers, 50% of them do go on to college. 50% of them go right to work or go into the armed forces. It gives students options. So if it's a student's passion to go into that trade, that's the thing we should celebrate. Everyone ought to have an opportunity to do work that they love. And this is a great way to celebrate that. But also it provides them perhaps an opportunity to get some hands-on learning, which will then strengthen and fortify the academic learning that they'll gain if they go on to traditional college studies. And even if they don't use that trade in a vocational sense, they've got an avocational gift. I think to myself, I am not a handy person. Every time I have to fix a light switch, I have to hire it out. Every time I have to do anything, I have to hire it out. I wish I knew how to do something like that. And folks who have those skilled trade experiences, even if they don't do it vocationally, have an avocational gift that will keep giving for the rest of their lives.
That's true, and over the course of a lifetime, when you're doing repairs and upgrades to your home or your property, you can save literally thousands and thousands of dollars for every skill you have that you can do yourself that you don't have to hire out. Not that there are times that hiring out isn't appropriate.
That's right.
But there's a lot of little jobs that it's hard to find somebody who will take the time to come in and do.
That's right.
So, Steve, talk to us a little bit about what some of the programs that your students in your BOCES are able to take in the course of their academic work, and then how that is a stepping stone off into a career. And I know your BOCES offers some things that maybe nobody else does. I know you have that great animal technology program because you have access to the Watertown Zoo as a place for a career choice.
Well, that's one good example. Our veterinary practices program is one of our newer and fastest growing programs. We had to add a second classroom of it in Watertown. So we have two technical centers, our very large center in Watertown that serves the 11 districts in Jefferson County, and our smaller technical center in Glenfield, just south of Lowville, that serves students in Lewis, Hamilton, Herkimer, and Oneida counties. It's about half the size of the one in Watertown. We have one veterinary practice classroom there, two in Watertown, bursting at the seams. So the students in the vast majority of our programs, we have specifically articulated programs in partnership with our college partners, Jefferson Community College and Mohawk Valley Community College, among others, but those are the two closest partners we have for our programs. So in veterinary practices, students who are successful there can go seamlessly, if they choose, into the zoology program at Jefferson, which could prepare them to be perhaps a zookeeper or any number of other things. So these various articulated pathways, I think, provide students with opportunities, if they don't choose to go right into the world of work, a nice seamless pathway into the next step in college or some type of post-secondary education. And they're earning embedded credits in many cases that we have worked out with our various teachers on our side and their side, and said, okay, if a student is successful in this curriculum, they will come into Jefferson or come into Mohawk Valley Community College with this many credits in the bank already that they will have earned. The same is true in many of our programs. Some of our biggest programs include our criminal justice program. Many students go on to become police officers or prison guards. Some go to law school. Our culinary arts program, one of the fastest growing ones, again, we had to add a second class in Watertown. We have one in Glenfield, two in Watertown, because we wanted to differentiate two pathways within the culinary arts field, traditional cuisine and baking. And we created a whole new baking space for the kids. That's the one my daughter says she wants to go to. She's 6 years old. Since she was 2, she has said, I want to be a chef. And that she has not deviated from that. I could see her in that. And I could see her every year, those students, when they prepare their sort of capstone project for us, which is a gourmet meal, we ask them all, where are you going next year? Most of them are going on for further study. Every year we have a handful that go to the Culinary Institute of America, Johnson & Wales, and a variety of other very good schools. So it's not an either or, it's an and, being college and career ready. And it's such a joy to see the opportunities and some very high-tech options. I should mention, our brand newest program is one we are currently just offering down in Lewis County in a building that we just opened this past year with Jefferson Community College. It was built by Lewis County. and we pay for half of the lease, and Jefferson Community College pays for half of the lease. We share the space, we share the equipment, and it's really kind of cutting edge. It's not just two schools side by side, it's literally integrated space, integrated technology. They have a program in mechatronics, which is advanced manufacturing technology, and we have a pipeline program called engineering and design, which has a healthy dose of robotics and other very high-end technology that prepares kids so that if they want to go to work in today's world of manufacturing at Kraft Heinz or Cubicle or Otis or one of the other high-end technologies in Lewis County, they can walk right into those jobs. Or they can go to Clarkson, or they can go to wherever they want to go, because this is very rigorous work. So we're very pleased with that, and we're going to continue to develop new programs. We're working on an agriculture program right now. Ironically, in the world of agriculture, we don't have a specific program for agriculture, so we want to.
You know, that's interesting because, of course, when you look at the history of Canton, SUNY Canton, it started out as an ag and tech college. They gradually moved completely away from agriculture, and now, like many places, they're looking at how to reinvigorate that, because you have things like wineries and breweries and all sorts of new opportunities in the agriculture field. They're very niche programs, and so getting that threshold agriculture programming in right at the beginning is very important. It isn't dairy anymore, it's all these other things, isn't it?
It is, really. What we're hoping to have is a 2-year program that can be taken either as a 1-year program or as a 2-year program, with a foundational course 1 year for those who want the foundational course, or some may skip right over it because they may have an ag program in their school district and come right to the 2nd year, which we'd like to see be kind of like a New Vision program, where the students come in and they get a little bit of a variety of things within the field of agriculture, and they get a lot of field experience side by side with real practitioners in the field. So looking at not just herd management and crop growth, but also equipment management, and this very, very high-end equipment. The John Deere place in our area tells us they can't find enough people to work on these GPS-controlled computerized tractors and such. So, and nutrition, that's another piece of it that we want to work in. So all of these things will weave together seamlessly, we believe, into a really valuable program, which will then set students up for a variety of options after high school.
Right, right. Well, you had mentioned a little bit about the mechatronics program, and I wanted to dive into a little bit about automation and robotics with you, because that's one of the new forces of innovation that's driving the American workplace. 21% of workers here in the U.S. say they've had to upskill their jobs through education over the last 2 years because some part of their work duties has been automated, and 37% of workers say they've already been required to get further education because they're required to use a new form of technology or software. So how does a career in technical education that BOCES can offer students give them a leg up in this process as the workplace changes so rapidly, Steve?
Because we weave into each one of our programs a healthy dose of what we call soft skills, but I don't even really like that term. It's life skills, or it's career skills, or workforce skills. It prepares them to be versatile and problem solving, and folks who can work with others, people who understand. Well, let me back up a little bit. When we talk with our industry partners and we ask them, what are you looking for? What do you need? They tell us the single biggest gap that they see today in those who come to apply for jobs is in those areas. Folks who will show up for work regularly, and folks who will know when to use their phone and when not to use their phone at work. People who know how to shake your hand and look you in the eye and know how to work together and collaborate, who understand that change is natural and they need to be versatile and flexible. So those are the things that we weave into our programs, because what we hear time and again from our industry partners is, yes, teach them the specific skills of the trade. That's handy, that's helpful. But if they come to us and we have to teach them some of that specific to our particular endeavor, that's not a problem. We plan to do that. Please, though, make sure that they have these, and again, I don't like soft skills, but that tends to be the predominant term.
The social skills?
The social skills, exactly. Because I think these really are critical. So you can guarantee that a student is going to come out of one of our programs with a leg up over those who didn't, because they will have had this for 2 years. And what we hear time and again is that our students understand work ethic, they understand how to collaborate, and that's critical.
So it really is, it's like practice work, isn't it?
It really
in an
is.
educational setting.
It really is.
And with the kind of guidance you need to figure out where you need to improve and how you need to make adjustments before you actually get to work.
That's right, and on the back of each of their graduation certificates is our career readiness evaluation tool. And we share that with all of our industry partners, that when they interview someone, please ask to see that, because you will see how they have done on all of these expectations regarding the world of work.
Oh, that's great. So I want to talk to you for a minute, Steve, about gender and the skilled trades. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, for example, women only make up about 9% of the construction industry currently, and yet these are high-paying jobs. They are jobs that no longer you don't need brute strength to do a lot of construction work, because there's a lot of mechanical aids to construction, lifts and things like that. You don't have to carry a bundle of shingles up to the roof on a ladder. There's machines that put them up there for you. So how are you doing in attracting young ladies to these kind of traditionally male programs where there are such great job opportunities for everybody?
That is a major focus of all BOCES in the state. And one of the metrics that is used to grade us each year on our report card in our CTE centers is how many non-traditional students, and that it goes both ways as well. Males in traditionally female courses, as it is with females in traditionally male courses. So we're not there yet. And we're still struggling with it, as everyone is, but we're making marked progress year after year after year. I think of 3 weeks ago, we had an open house at our Bowling Technical Center, and we had hundreds and hundreds of prospective students and their families there. And there was one young lady whose mother I happen to know because I taught with her years ago, who is excited about coming to the Tech Center. And when she came in the door, she said, "I don't know which of 3 programs I want." I said, "Well, you're in luck. You can check them all out tonight and see." And on the way in, she wasn't sure if she wanted to do heavy equipment, welding, or carpentry. I said, "Well, I'm glad you're looking at all 3 of those. Check them out." By the time she left, she was sold on heavy equipment because she loved that instructor and she loved the place. And so that's what we want to hear and see more of. And I think that there's a role for all of us to play in that. Families, clearly her family did the right thing, reinforcing that what you want to do is important, and there is no discouraging a student from doing something that wouldn't have traditionally been a pathway that 50 years ago folks would have thought of. We educators, family members, school counselors back in the component districts, everyone in the community, and I think the folks in the trades need to continue to reinforce this if we're going to make measurable headway moving forward, because we're not there yet.
Yeah, and part of that, of course, is making these non-traditional folks in all of these careers visible and giving them the opportunity to go to places like your tech centers and say, "This is what my job is like, and these are the challenges that I have faced and overcome, but the workplace is getting more equal." So those great opportunities. One thing that educators have to be is far-seeing in terms of anticipating what the trends and the needs of the workplaces of the future are going to look like, especially when you're designing programs for your students of today. Talk to us a little bit, Steve, about how you develop your programs that you think students are going to want to and need to be ready for in the future.
So everything we do in CTE, Career and Technical Ed, is done with advisory groups, which are filled with industry experts. We know what we know, but we don't know what we don't know. And they're the ones who know what we don't know. So every one of these advisories meets a couple times a year to evaluate the curriculum, to study the equipment and advise on new equipment purchases, and to advise necessary evolution to the programs. And we've evolved many of our programs over time based upon the advice we get from the people who live and breathe that year in and year out in the field. I think, for example, in our auto body advisory group last year, what we heard folks saying was that many auto manufacturers are moving to aluminum bodies for vehicles. We see that you haven't got any aluminum welding equipment and it's not in your curriculum. You need to weave that in. That's now in our curriculum, and we invested in the equipment that was necessary for that. In our small engine repair program a few years ago, we heard our folks from the community advisory group saying there's a considerable need in our area, in the Thousand Islands area, for more on the marine side of things. You need to really beef that up. So we evolved, and our program is now called Marine and Power Sports. And so there's a healthy amount of boats and jet ski work and other things like that. So that type of thing allows us not just to create new programs. We have a large program group called the CTE Advisory Committee, which has folks from the various trades and other community partners who advise us on creation of programs that don't even exist yet, such as our ag program and our engineering and design program. It has our college partners, it has people from the Workforce Development Board, people from our economic development partners, JCIDA and others, and a number of folks from the community who are just very interested in this. But each of these advisory committees for each specific program help us to evolve a program over time, so that even though it might not be a brand new program, it hardly resembles what it was 10 or 15 years ago, so it might as well be a brand new program. But I do think a major piece of that is working closely again with our friends at the Workforce Development Board and the Department of Labor who have statistics that help us to inform our thinking about what the projections are 5 years, 10 years, 15 years out for the needs and for the workforce, and how many people are expected to retire in a particular field, where are the jobs going to be. Those factor heavily into our decisions.
Just like that advertisement on that shopping bag said,
That's right.
these openings are coming, and you need to be ready for them.
That's right.
Steve, I want to catch up with you on the solar array project
Yes.
that your BOCES has been overseeing for school districts and municipalities across the North Country. When we first talked a few years ago, your students were doing a lot of the hands-on work to build that array that's on your campus, on the Watertown campus. Where does that project stand right now in the North Country?
So the Tri-County Energy Consortium is the name of the 38 school district and municipal partner agency that we facilitate and we manage. And we're just one of those 38 partners. Many of them are St. Lawrence County, some are Franklin County, many are Jefferson and Lewis County municipalities and schools. So as of right now, there is just the one 12-acre array on our campus that has been brought to completion by the developers. But there are 5 other arrays that are in the pipeline that we hope to see to completion here within the next year or two. The 12-acre array is a 2.5 megawatt venture, and as I mentioned to you before, we didn't build it, actually a developer built it. We signed a power purchase agreement with them on behalf of the Tri-County Energy Consortium, and in so doing, all that we committed to was the purchase of whatever electricity is produced by that array at a fixed rate, no escalation, over 20 years at 7.3 cents a kilowatt hour, and then we push it out to the grid, and National Grid has to buy it from us at whatever the regulatory agencies of the state say is a fair rate. And we had done our homework in advance to find out that it's not ever been below 10 cents, and it's often about 16 to 20.
So you're making money.
There's a spread.
Yeah.
And that spread then is used to pay the power bills of these 38 partners. They've all signed their meters over to the Tri-County Energy Consortium, which has a staff member in our offices who takes care of all of this, and then whatever savings are realized are applied against it, and everybody gets a proportionate share of those savings. We've noted in the first year and a half of the operation of that first 12-acre array that it's producing at a clip that allows about $150,000 a year savings, which even if another array is never built, that's a savings.
Sure.
Because it cost us nothing up front and we lose nothing. Worst case scenario, the developer goes broke and they're not producing any power, in which case we have no obligation because we have only an obligation to buy what they produce.
Right.
So we feel like it's a win-only situation for our school and municipal partners, who then can use those savings to spend on their core mission, which is serving kids and serving the communities. So we'd love to see 5 more of those built, and I'm hopeful they will be, but even if they're not, we chalk what we've done so far up as a success.
Right. Well, solar, wind, and alternative energy jobs are clearly the jobs of the future, and according to many reports that I've read, workers in those fields are making great livings, somewhere $70,000, $75,000 a year, just putting those facilities up. So those are the kind of jobs that your kids are really being prepared for, aren't they?
I think so, and what we find is there are lots of opportunities, particularly for the kids who graduated from our electrical program. Lots of jobs in that, because every one of those arrays and or wind farms is going to require people who know how to wire things properly. And so that's our single biggest, I think, program connection there. But certainly anybody in any of our building and construction trades, heavy equipment, there's a lot of site work that needs to be done on any of these things. We don't have a program specific to renewable energy, but I'd sure love to see one. Maybe that's our next one.
Yeah, well, we're talking here in Potsdam, there's a chance to put a couple of arrays up. Canton just put one up. I mean, this really seems to be the way of the future for municipalities to be doing this kind of work. So, Steve, as we wrap up, you have a chance here to talk to any parent out there, any student out there. What is your pitch for career and technical education, whether they come to your BOCES or our BOCES or somebody else's BOCES?
My pitch is, listen to your child, find out their passion, and support them 100% in pursuing that passion. And if their passion is something that you believe connects to one of the skilled trades, support that just as passionately as you would if they said, I want to go to X college and get X degree. Because I think that's what it's all about. Let's help our kids to, because unfortunately what I see is when students don't get the support of their families and sometimes their school personnel in the component districts for their dream of going into a skilled trade, sometimes they go a different direction because they want to please those they love. So if we love our children, support them in the decisions they make and help them to see that there are lots of ways to be successful.
Well, thank you for coming in today, Steve. I knew this was going to be a good show. It's always a good show when you come in, and we so appreciate you coming down and giving us your thoughts and your time.
It's always fun. Thanks. Thank you.
These conversations are a production of North Country Matters, which is filmed here in the Fred W. Cleveland Computer Center of the Potsdam Public Library. These shows are a civic collaboration between the League of Women Voters of St. Lawrence County and the Potsdam Public Library. Until next time, remember, our North Country matters, and so do our skilled trades.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.